This is Ecclesia Framework Family Meeting for July 30th, 2017. Bill Brady, facilitator. Welcome to those that are listening. We're going to ascend just as a beginning here, so our conversation is held in heavenly places. And in order to ascend, we will take you through a series of steps, and we'll begin that process now. So we're covering ourselves with the blood of Jesus. We're blocking out other realms, welcoming Father, Son, Holy Spirit, the angels, men in white linen, seven spirits of God, wisdom, and we're going to ascend together through Jesus. Now we're going through Jesus as a gate. He said, I am the door. He also said, I am the gate. And so when he was talking about that, he was talking about you can go through me into heavenly places, just like Revelation says, come up here. And John went up there. So we're going to go up, but we're going through Jesus because he is the door. So we will start here by ascending now. Friday's healing group was assigned a heavenly conference room for us to meet in. I really like that. And so tonight we are going to, I've asked Father for a heavenly conference room for this group. So I want you to engage your imaginations. And we're heading to a conference room now. You know what a conference room looks like, round table, square table, whatever it is that you picture in your mind with a series of chairs around it. Find yourself a chair to sit down at. You don't have to see this with your eyes. You can just sense it with your heart and just use your imagination. So we are going up as a group together to sit down in the heavenly conference room together. Find yourself a seat. Picture yourself being comfortable, arranging yourself in that chair so that it's comfortable for you. Looking around the table, you've seen some of the faces. These faces will be around the table with you. Maybe there's a glass of water in front of you. What else is around the table? I've invited angels. We've invited men of white linen. So I wouldn't be surprised Jesus is with us as well. So we are in very good company, one another, and with Father, Son, and Holy Spirit in heavenly places. I am going to, at this point, attempt to share a screen with you of the page that has the information on it that we're going to be sharing from one another. Can you see how to move from the old wineskin to being the new wineskin? Just need one person to say yes, and then I know I'm on the right page here. Unintentional pun. Thank you. Okay, that wasn't actually a very good pun, but it was unintentional. Okay, on the same page here. Now, we're not going to make this academic. The idea is whatever of these points engages your heart. So in other words, where is your hunger right now? Where is your greatest hunger for the conversation to go to tonight? And we'll start with that and then go on to something else that engages our hunger. I'm just going down the list so you can see it. While I'm doing this, one of the things on here, I'll just share my testimony. I especially like testimonies. Questions are good also, but testimonies are even better because we can all use testimony as something that we can move into for ourselves. Also, stumbling blocks, things that prevent you and hold you back, are things to talk about as well. One of the things on here is getting into the Holy of Holies. Picture the temple or the tabernacle, 3 parts, in the front, outer court, and then middle court there. I forget the proper term, but the last one's Holy of Holies. Ark of the Covenant there, the 2 cherubim over it. God spoke from between the cherubim to Moses. I love going to the Holy of Holies. One of the things I did as a couple months in was at night I like to do I call parking my spirit. I would put my spirit in some place in heavenly places and let it be there all night. I knew it was doing all kinds of good things and soaking up all kinds of good stuff. And one of my favorite places to park my spirit is the Holy of Holies. So there's a testimony for you. You can do the same thing if you wish. Does anything on here catch anybody's heart desire as a place to begin our conversation with one another tonight? By the way, while I'm sharing the page, I can't see chat. So if somebody's chatting, I can't see that right at the moment.
I know living from the source continually is just been an ongoing thing for me. And yeah, that just leads to all kinds of good things, but can be a challenging practice to get in and stay in. And one thing that helps me is just, I've been able to picture myself multidimensionally, and it's like, well, there's a piece of me, so one dimensional, if I'm multidimensional, one part of me is in the river, in the arms of Jesus, being carried by Father, Son, and Spirit in that, it's like a golden womb of love. And that's where I park my spirit.
That is awesome.
And that's there. And so it's not even a place that I go anymore. I awaken to the fact that I am here and I never leave here. There's at least a piece of me that never leaves here. And to reinforce that, even when, distraction comes, whatever. Yeah, and another good thing that helped me stay with that was something we did in another Zoom not too long ago. Somebody said how if something comes against you and you kind of start losing your peace, you can say, I am now reigning on my mountain.
There you go.
And so you see yourself as the authority there, not as the victim of circumstance or whatever's coming on. And so those are just a couple of things.
That's awesome. Can somebody build on that? Or ask about it?
I've just got a quick point
Please.
on what I'm being led at the moment is less of untethering and more of tethering. So I seem to be going through this whole process that it's moving away from incessant cleansing to really living and living out of relationship, but also knowing my authority. And that seems to be an awful lot of just entangling. If a lot of people are very confused when we use that word, but basically it's kind of like it's like you tap into someone's spirit. So say, for example, you're trying to engage who your men in white linen are, and you've identified a name. You try and tap into their spirit, so then it almost feels like your DNA is twirling around their DNA, and there's an infusement of knowledge going on that does not need words, does not need even pictures or anything. And it's like you begin to know about them, and that tethering kind of, it just gives you such a hunger for being in heaven. And it's less about getting rid of all the horrible yucky stuff, which decreases your frequency. The moment you think about sins and problems in the world, it changes your focus. So I see that's where we're moving down the track, is getting a lot more about tethering than untethering. And tethering can be anything, any engagement, any engagement in heaven is a form of tethering as well. Anything that absolutely grips you such that you just such a hunger for living out of the river is tethering.
Yeah, to me, my living in the river is a form of tethering to the river of life as the source.
Yeah, yeah.
We are seeing the need to concentrate on the positive rather than negative these days.
Yeah, yeah. Not to say that in the early days, the pull of the world is huge, and you've got to be really conscious of that. You know, the things to distract you, the busyness of the world, feeling secular, feeling like, you know, you'd rather watch a TV program than being in heaven is huge. And I know I did feel a huge desire daily to say that that's not my heart. I want to get rid of that. But there's other ways as well of, like, some people talk about untethering, about ruling in the star houses, and that's a positive thing, really, even though it's sort of bringing back wrong alignment. Once you start to do that, I mean, that's really positive governmental work. So I find that incredibly uplifting.
Can I go back to something that Bill and Quinn were mentioning really quick? Because I see another aspect of that with respect to John 5:18 and 19, which is I only do what I see my Father doing. And that's part of what, I mean, for me, it's become, it's almost like a mantra. Well, not even a mantra, but you know, it's just my standard. You know, for a lot of us, I know it is, and we're living by that. And that's one reason why it's so important for us to be connected in heaven as well as here in the earth simultaneously, because it's critical that we only do what God, the Father, is telling us to do. And I see these ascensions as a part of that and the outworking of that, of what Jesus said. So I just wanted to submit that.
I found an interesting point, though, too, Simone. At a certain point, I came to a place where I was waiting around to be told what to do, and I wasn't hearing anything. I had previously had an experience of being led, like step by step. And it came down to a place where I finally realized that Father was giving me the opportunity to live out of desire. He brought me to a place where he trusted me to desire. And it was kind of like when I was a kid during summer, we'd sit in the back porch, a couple of us, and I would say to them, "What do you want to do today? What do you want to do today?" And they would say, "I don't know. What do you want to do?" And I would say, "I don't know. What do you want to do?" And that could go on for a while.
I know what you mean, Bill. Yeah, I know. I get the same thing. While to figure that what really going on was just moving out of your desire, you're moving out of your scroll, and I'm saying, and just do it.
Yeah. So there was a point at which he was
yeah,
waiting
I know
on
what
me.
you mean, because I would wait. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
You know what, I agree, I totally agree with what you're saying, Bill, and I can relate to what you're saying too. But the revelation I got about that is to be like a child that mimics his father, meaning, you know, just out of a love for the Father, we do as he would do, like that. So that, I mean, but because I experienced that as well. I was kind of stagnant, and then I was realizing I was too rigid and religious with that, the interpretation of that. But I'm coming from a standpoint of being like a child and mimicking the father. You know how a child will just mimic their father?
I
So
love
that's,
that, Simone. That's a beautiful picture.
yeah.
I agree, Simone.
Someone once explained to me, and I found it really helpful, about seeing this whole walk as a dance. And when you dance, it takes two to make the move. So it's like the father makes the move as the man and leads, and you follow. But there's a point where you have to. You're free to bring your expression into it as well. So as we mature, there's definitely an element where initially we have to really submit to the heavenly blueprint, because it's so different from what we have seen in the past. So there's a huge submission and a huge giving up of any expectation of what we like and what it is. But after a while, when you mature and you really know your authority, there's definitely a sense I see that the Father's saying, you know, don't just keep coming and asking me questions all the time. You know enough about the culture of heaven to begin to take that authority. Like a young king, there must get a point where he doesn't constantly keep asking all his advisors for advice. He has to come to a point where he's sufficient in his authority that he stamps his personal mandate on the kingdom. And I see that's what it is when our DNA gets so entwined with what the heavenly DNA is, we then are confident that when we choose to say go somewhere or do something without a huge sense of being led, it's all in the heavenly DNA, so we're doing the right thing at any rate. If you can see the distinction.
And taking your illustration, Jane, the young king probably grew up watching his dad do the job of being king. And so he was, at a certain point, able to be king on his own without the advisors, because he had seen what a king was by watching his father. So it's exactly, it's like driving down the road and staying off the ditch on the left side and staying off the ditch on the right side. At a certain point. Okay, anybody else?
Bill, just since we seem to be on John 5, one of the things that's really been on my heart the last while is that Jesus saw his Father ruling. And when Jesus was on the earth, he ruled, whether it was feeding, whether it was calming the storms, whether it was healing, regardless, Jesus was implementing the rulership and kingly rule, which he had seen from his Father. And I think that's also where the you'll do the same works that I did and greater, is that as we learn to rule, it will take on greater dimensions, if I can put it that way. And that's just been, that's been amazing for me, is to say, you know what, God trusts us to rule even as he rules, because we've seen it from the Father, seen it from Jesus.
Anybody else?
Just back to that dance imagery, I love what Jane was saying there, because I'm a dancer and I have done a wide variety of styles, everything from individual types where it's hip hop or modern or ballet, to swing dancing, which is actually a partner dance, and salsa, which is a partner dance. And I'm more familiar with swing than most of the other ones in terms of I've done it longer. But often the way that it works with swing dancing is you start off just very insecure and you only know the exact steps that you've been taught. And so you do those exact steps. But when you get more confident,
Sorry, I was just going to say, whoever's typing, could you just mute yourself because we can hear you?
It's my apologies. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Around.
Right. So with the imagery of the dancing, you start off with only the steps that you've been taught, and you do those exact steps because you're focused on, do I do this right? And it's very mechanical and it's very almost formulaic, because if you don't do the formula right, then you're bumping into each other, or you're not doing it right, and it actually impacts your dance. Sometimes you have to stop because you get all tangled up, or if you move, especially for the man, actually, for the lead, there's the lead, which is the man, and then the follow, which is the woman. And I always found, as I was learning the dance steps and as I was going deeper into the culture of the swing dance scene, that it was a lot like my faith with Jesus, because it's that dance, it's that back and forth, it's that, in my case, as the woman, I'm the follow and he's the lead. And there was one guy who basically taught me most of what I knew for the first number of months that I was dancing. And he would often start off with teaching me the mechanics of, this is where you put your feet. And then once we were actually putting it into, along with music and actually dancing at full speed, he would deliberately, he would take what I was familiar with and just twist just a little bit, basically trying to find out, are you following me, or are you just doing the steps? Going and you're sort of, because what it's really about as a dance is not only the man has to do this and the woman has to do this, but that's the beginning, and then the more competent you get as a dancer, there's
Part of that broke up, but we got much of it.
Oh, sorry, it broke up?
Part of it did, but we got most of it.
Bill,
I've had a hard time staying connected to the meeting.
Go on, Jane, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Bill, this morning I just really felt led about a new way of doing this dialogue.
Okay.
That makes it really practical for everyone. And when we've had a bit of a dialogue about a topic, so everyone knows what the topic is, that we just all quickly personally engage heaven to ask, what way do we need, is there anything we need to do about that topic?
Wonderful.
So for example, if we're choosing untethering, we just ask now to hear, is there anything I need to know about untethering? How do I untether, or what do I need to untether from? Whatever the question is of burning in your spirit, so that we can all really begin to move practically forward and not just debate a topic and then move on. And then if they felt they wanted to share, could share. They don't have to. And if you can't hear, that's okay, but that might be something you want to go back to, so that each of these meetings is really, really practical. So we're actually moving forward in action, and we're not just getting a whole load of concepts that one day we're going to get to, particularly with untethering, because it probably is the foundation of really the journey, of keeping going in the journey, is recognizing all those things that are coming against us that would dull your heart for heavenly agendas, really. But we should be able to just do it quickly. It shouldn't have to be a long thing. You should be able to get to the point where you can just ask a question quickly and hear something.
Let's do that. Each of us ask that question about untethering, tethering rather. So ask the question in the form that you wish to and get your answer. Does anybody have something to share on that topic that they've heard that they wish to share?
Actually, when Jane was discussing it the first time, I was getting revelation that I had that DNA twirling experience with some men in white linen, and then I got the strong impression I need to do that deliberately with others that I know I'm connected with in heaven, and so that was really encouraging.
Anybody else? Okay, so where is your greatest hunger for the next topic to dialogue here?
Does anybody have a suggestion for ministries or websites that talk about really anointed ways of dealing with land-based intercession or land-based warfare? Because that is what is personal obstacle, I guess, into obstacle to get to the mindset and model and everything. I was doing really well for a number of months, and then probably 6 months ago I had a major assignment come against me, and I haven't recovered since. And I would really like to know if there's anybody who has resources they could share about that particular issue.
Okay, well, that's
Even
actually
just private message me. I don't want to take over the topic here. It's just it really is an issue for me. So
appreciate that. That's a little off the topic here, but someone may have a suggestion.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Does anybody have one of these here that's on your heart?
Well,
You want to just read them out, Bill? Because I can't really see them well.
Oh, you
on my
can't see
phone.
them. Okay. There's not going solely into heaven to get your own needs met.
can we do that one, please, Bill?
I'd be glad to. We'll begin with this one, and actually, the healing group has had experience of this on Friday. We've learned that when you are doing legislation for healing, you don't just seek to have yourself healed. You actually pick a group of people to believe for that entire group for healing of a particular symptom, and then go through the process of legislating for that entire group. So the idea is that you're not just going up for your list of things, and we're all very much aware of our list. I mean, they're in our face. But the thought is that you're up in heaven to give and not just to receive. And the law of sowing and reaping goes into effect. You give, then you do receive. So, for example, I joined the healing group because I was looking for, but my concentration was on everybody else. Anybody else?
You know, I just want, oh, sorry, go ahead, Jane.
Oh, I was just going to say, you say that about taking, for a people group, and that sets off all my bells. Do you have a mandate for that? I don't know if I'm over panicky there, but.
You are exactly correct. Your mandate, your sphere of authority may simply be, for example, for just your family. You don't want to overstep your authority or your mandate by going outside your authority. So you may not have authority for the entire ecclesia worldwide, but you may have authority for ecclesia framework, or you may, let's talk family, you may have authority for a certain degree of closeness in your family, but not further out, and your degree of authority may grow as you grow yourself. So yes, you need to know where your mandate is and where your limits are and stay within them, and your heart will know that because it will give you that feeling when you step outside the limit.
Bill, may I interject with that?
Please.
And this may be the old way of thinking, but the word does say, lay hands on the sick and cast out demons, heal the sick, cast out demons, and raise the dead. he didn't say in there, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the Lord did not say in there if it's my mandate or if it's in my authority. So, and I do understand about going outside the authority and things, but I think we all have a mandate to do what the Word says, and He told us that in the Word. Any thoughts on that?
Anybody have thoughts on that?
If I can come back to that, John, again, Jesus saw his Father rule. So Jesus ruled over his, the circumstances that he encountered, be it healing or all of those things. So I think it still comes down to healing. And I agree, if there's a mandate, if we find a situation that needs to be dealt with, just if I can add on to, I think it was Quinn that said, something that I'm experiencing is I'm seeing spiritual needs or things that need to be addressed in the spirit, and I'm personally wondering and says, how far do I have permission to go there? And to me, at the moment, it's a bit of a gray area. I know I have mandates over my personal stuff and family, and then it's these, but where do I fit them in? Can I stretch it and say, what, I'm not sure on that one. But I think when it comes to ruling, if there's a situation we encounter, then we need to rule over it.
Well, I have a personal experience with my husband. A few months before we were married 24 years ago, encountered a demoniac person, took authority where he didn't have authority, and got his can kicked for the next 20 years. It's impacted my family hugely, and it's only been recently that I've seen that this was the route where a boundary was overstepped, and that gave the enemy a legal right. So, I wanted this to be really clear and simple and obvious, but my experience is that it isn't, or at least not in a way that I can perceive it simply. So I totally agree with you, Donna, but then there's this reality that I've had to live with also. So not sure what to do with that.
I see it's a bit of both, Look, I think those verses there were saying that we can do it for everyone, and that is probably the highest blueprint we're called to. But a lot is around what authority you have, and also what ability you have to cope without stress, without moving out the seat of rest. And so it's I see it's more like that. It's than heaven saying, oh well, you're not allowed to do this or you're not allowed to that. Particularly if you're absolutely hungering and desiring, and you feel well able to cope with that. I don't see heaven's going to turn around and say, sorry, that's not your mandate. But if it's the opposite, and you're feeling like you should, and you're guilt, and you're stressed, and you're nervous of attack or whatever, then that's not good. That's not a good place to be. So the whole of heaven would not want you to put yourself in that position, and would want you to grow in that maturity, grow in that ability to cope, so it comes with rest and ease. So I think it's this flow, but I don't think we should be fearing hugely that if we step out in something when there's huge desire, we're going to be in a bad place. I can remember that absolutely paralyzing me when I first started about Heavenly Realms, because I knew I had such a massive mandate, and I was so hungry, and I so wanted to do this and that, and then people turn around, oh, but are you sure? Are you sure? And the fear came over me. It was an awful place to be. And I bypassed that, fortunately, really quickly, because I knew that these desires I had in various days were really, really strong. And so I could confidently say, yes, I'm called to that. And those things haven't gone away. It hasn't been a fickle thing where, I just thought it was a mandate and I did it for a few months and then it just disappeared. These things have stayed with me for years, so I can have that confidence. because I really know my mountains well. So I think it's about knowing and getting that confidence over the mountains as well, and seeing where that really is a huge passion for you. Because we have found people signing up for all sorts of groups and then disappearing really quickly. And that concerned me, that some people were just rushing in, and they were rushing more for encounters than they were knowing that they had a mountain. And that's not a good place to be. But equally, you don't want to be in indecision around your mountains for so long. You're so scared of taking a thing in case it's absolutely right, because often you don't confirm a mountain until you step out on it and act. And then you really know. Then you get like, oh, I don't really have a heart for this. This is wrong. Or it confirms it and you go, yes, I know I'm in the right place. So it's that little balance, but certainly I think we've got to overcome this fear, because the thing is, once we're in the higher realms, we're above the enemy. So that's the difference. In the olden days, we were doing it from the earth, and we had all these problems. So I don't actually see many people having disastrous attacks of, things happening when they even step out of their mandates in the heavens. It's more they just get a lack of peace, really.
It's more like a misfire. Your faith just doesn't do the job because you're outside your faith level.
Yeah.
That's not a problem. You just say, okay, well, now I know, and stay within your faith level and let your faith grow. And then a couple of days later, maybe you can tackle that again and do it.
Yeah, and that was exactly it with my husband. He was doing it warfare the old way. And yeah, that's exactly right, Jane. That from above, that's not an issue.
Yeah, that's the wonderful thing. We're not finding there's these huge problems anymore.
Bill?
Yes.
This is Kelly. What I have seen in the especially here this year and a little bit towards the end of last year in the healing meetings that I have been ministering healing in, is that these people that are coming to specific meetings for this, they are very receptive. They're coming ready to receive, and they're giving permission. And I find that when I lay hands on them, the healing, the virtue, I mean, you could feel the power coming out of me into them, and they're pulling on that. Some of them pull so hard that it'll just drain you, just one person, but they're pulling all of that out of you, and they're receiving healing very easily. And things are like, snap of a finger or within the hour type thing. Whereas I have found it more difficult in situations where if I just approach a person, like say at Walmart, at just wherever, even at church, or just out of the blue, just seeing someone that needs healing from the outside, I find that it's way more difficult for me to administer healing for that person. And the same with the casting out demons. In these meetings, when we see these manifestations happen, these people are coming up front because they want that. They're coming up, they want that freedom. They can talk to you and tell you about where they're bound up and stuff. And when these things are manifesting, we're seeing them come out very easily. Whereas, again, if you just out of the blue and trying to do this on someone that's not receptive or not even really wanting it, I could see where the problem would be, where it would be difficult. But my question at this point is, okay, yeah, I've done that. But now how is this going, what does this look like now that we go into the heavenlies and have this authority? How does that going to change what these healing meetings look like? Because I know from these healing meetings, we are still doing this stuff the old way. So that's where I'm really trying to push in and press in. I know I have a healing mountain. I know that that's something that I'm supposed to do, but I'm just trying to now figure out what does that look like from the heavenly realms, and then how do I get that here and manifest it here?
Okay,
Anybody?
good question. First
Can I
off,
say something,
go ahead,
Bill, with
Please.
respect to what Kelly just said and
please.
in the other healing topic? You know, I was on a bench here, you know, where I live, and we were just beginning. We didn't know much, you know, how to do things. We were just stepping out by faith, and we went in to see what heaven was going to show about a particular person's healing. And just like you said, what we got back was a mandate for a breakthrough for the whole body of Christ to walk in total health. And we were kind of shocked because we weren't expecting that. So I just wanted to confirm that when you try to do it just for a person or individual, in our experience, heaven responded was like, no, do it for the whole entire body of Christ, which was huge for us. We were like, whoa. And so I just wanted to say that. And in terms of, and then I wanted to say another thing really quick. When we asked, you know, when I asked what I should be tethered to, what I heard was my scroll. So I just wanted to confirm what Jane had said. It's critical that we operate in line with what's on our scroll, because that's what heaven will back. And then I think that's kind of segues into what Kelly is saying, because again, going back to that bench that I was on, we are here to reflect what heaven is doing. So I think it's important that we operate according to what's on our scroll and go to heaven concerning what's on our scroll. See what God is showing us considering our scroll. I mean, what heaven is doing with respect to whatever that topic is or that assignment is. And then reflect that here on the earth and implement that, which takes time. So, well, I know in my instance, it's taken a lot of time. So I just wanted to share that was what my experience was.
Bill,
Yes,
may I respond to Kelly?
sure, please.
I don't know if this will help, but just like a lot of things that Kelly was saying, I related to. I was in the healing rooms at the church I used to attend for like 7 years, and also did freedom ministry for quite some time also. And yes, we did it the old way. And I did not really realize until I came into this movement, started listening to Ian and those guys, that what I was doing as far as in the healing rooms was the old method. I was doing it from the earth up instead of from heaven down. I no longer minister in the healing rooms, but so the Lord has really brought me into a better way of doing it. And it was like what we were doing the other night, Bill, and praying in the Spirit, and the Lord will show you who to pray for. And so unfortunately, sometimes when the people do come that are come to the healing rooms, they're coming to a man. And I have found that they were more focused on, well, I want to get Mr. So-and-so to pray for me because they have that anointing, when we all can lay hands on the sick and see them healed. But I noticed within the healing rooms that I was a part of, that people were coming in, they wanted a certain person to pray for them because they were looking at a man instead of God. And that's really kind of unfortunate. We see that in a lot of healing people that are out on the streets. And I did go out on the streets, and I understand that it's hard to get people healed because they'd rather rely on doctors. But if you go overseas, they're receptive to healing, you know. So I don't know if that really answered the question, but I believe the better way, and what's what the Lord is teaching and training me, and is doing it from heavenly realms.
We
Yes,
had such a good time.
that is exactly. I mean, that was very helpful, and that's what we're seeing. You know, when I go overseas, like Honduras is the last place I went as far as overseas. It's extremely easy, and these people are so receptive, and they're not really looking for that one-man show. Whereas when I go to different places in the States here, I see that what she's saying, that whole I'm here, you know, looking at man, really not for Jesus to heal me. And I know in this new big move that's there and all this happening, I know all this is going to change and look totally different. And I really want to be on board with this, but I am just like on the fence of like, okay, this is the old way and I don't really understand the new way. So it's like, what, at this point, what do I do? Do I just stop everything and stop what I'm doing? Or do I keep doing it the old way, but press into this new stuff? I'm just really about to pull my hair out with all this. So anyway, that's where I'm at.
Kelly, just on that, a lot of us have seen that when we first start engaging all this material, we do have to put a stop to a lot of things that we were doing in the old way to be able to cope with the sheer volume of material coming through that we have to grasp. And also, it's all a part of untethering from the old ways. It's almost like we've all been called to give up things that are precious to us to make room for a new way of doing things. And it can be trading on the wrong floor if you try and keep doing a lot the old way, but you're trying to move to a new way as well. I see a lot of the healing meetings now will be phased out, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to encourage. What we have to do is explain to people, we're trying to encourage them to become mature sons, and mature sons take responsibility for their own healing. So we encourage people to go to the courts themselves. So that's what we say now, rather than heal and deliver, because a lot of the deliverance was coming back because people didn't know how to rule on their mountains. So I really don't even encourage people to even go to the courts with someone else. I just say, just learn to go to the courts yourself. You can heal yourself. You have to just learn what to deal with the accusations. You have to learn to grow in your authority. And that way, we're not giving a man a fish. We're teaching him to fish, because we're teaching him a long-term process in which he can deal with his own issues and rule on those mountains and live out of that place of healing instead of needing a meeting or somebody else. And that's what we ended up with. We ended up with a very dependent ecclesia that had to find meetings, had to find somebody to minister to them, had to pay somebody to minister to them. And we're seeing now that it's all about getting that internal authority that you can do any function yourself. All the functions are within the manifest Son. All the fivefold ministry, everything is within the manifest Son. And that's the immense authority we're moving to. And if people are really, really interested in their own healing, that should be attractive. If they're just not wanting to take responsibility for that and just want somebody else to do all the spiritual work, get into a good place to heal them, and then give them that gift, then that's not a good place to be, because we're just feeding that dependency. So that's why I see this transition is so needed. It is so needed, because we've ended up with a very weak body.
Yes, Jane, very good. I so agree with that. And because a lot of these people, they'll get healed in the meetings, but they go out and they lose their healing within weeks.
Yeah,
They keep what they have because we've given them absolutely zero tools.
yeah.
I agree. That's so hard. That is so true. And we need to teach and train them. If we're going to stay in the healing room type environment, we need to teach and train them to, like Jane said, get the healing for themselves and walk it out, walk that healing out. But I gave up on the healing rooms. I mean, I no longer do the old way. If I did the old way, like Jane's saying, it could really you know, it'd just be like being on the fence, one foot in heaven, one foot on the earth, and I just don't like that. So
Okay, I'm going to break in for a moment here. Apparently some of the folks on phones are unable to unmute themselves, so I am unmuting everybody on my end. If everybody could mute themselves again individually, and that should free up anybody that's been on a cell phone, has been unable to be able to get into the conversation. Apologies. Elgonda had a conversation she wanted to add to that topic. About being above your authority level. She said it's clear throughout the Gospels that training is involved, and that echoes what Jane had to say. And she said she once saw God explained to her a picture of a child stopping traffic at a school crossing so other kids can safely cross. And a tiny municipal policewoman holding up her hand, and a big truck had to stop, and the statewide traffic cop having authority in the freeways, and each one of them had differing degrees of authority in keeping with their responsibility and mandate. And that's a good illustration. Again, apologies to all. Everybody should be able to contribute now if they weren't able to before.
So what else is on that page, Bill?
Well, let's go take a look and see what we've got next year.
Okay.
We did that. Ruling and reinforcing verdicts. Begin one anothering, multiplying your life. Getting revelation, applying it straight away when you have just had something revealed to you. Trying to explain it to others, because that helps you to really get an understanding of the process yourself. Seeing things in writing increases retention. Teaching as debating, which by the way is what we're doing tonight, which I love doing. And daily discipling was the model of the early church. Did anybody have something in that list that called out to you as being the next topic? Oh, before we do that, Jane, we should probably ask for the last one for application. So let's take a moment and ask Father if there's anything he wants us to use for application on the other topic about not going solely into heaven to get your own needs met. So we'll take a moment and pause and let him talk to us about that, or speak to us in whatever way he wants to, and then we'll go on to this next topic. So take a moment here.
What you're talking, can you just quickly recap?
Yep. So did anybody get something on that topic that they want to share? If not, we will move on to another topic. But I wanted to have a chance for the Lord to speak to each of us on that. Okay. So new topic. Somebody have a desire on one of the topics? I'm sorry we missed that. Go ahead. Say it again. I think you must be breaking up because I couldn't hear you. Apologies. Okay, we'll move along. Apologies, I couldn't catch that as to what was being said. Anybody have a new topic?
The writing one sounded interesting to me. I don't know about anybody else.
Can you?
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
I can, yes.
My goodness, it's been so frustrating. I've been getting kicked out every couple minutes, and when people talk, it's garbled. I can hardly catch what people are saying. It's so frustrating.
I am so sorry. Everybody, you do want to mute yourselves on your audio when you're not talking, because that can, if too many folks are unmuted, it can cause feedback for some folks. Are you on a cell phone by chance?
I am, yes.
Yeah, I had somebody else mention they were having difficulty on a cell.
You can
Right.
call, you can sign off and call back in. Sometimes that gives a better connection.
That's
we
what I
do
was
have-
doing, like a dozen times at least.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, sorry about that. Can you just tell me what you guys were just talking about?
We just finished up on not solely into heaven to get your own needs met, and then we gave a chance for Father to speak to us on that, and we were picking a new topic at this point.
Oh, I see.
So apologies, you're not the only one. Somebody else was having trouble on a cell, and I
Sure.
apologize for that. So the thing was writing. Seeing things in writing increases retention more than hearing, so finding a balance of written and audio materials is best. This is why Ecclesia Frameworks materials are written in short pages so that we can read them. But it also applies to writing things down for yourself, I would imagine. Anybody?
When I first saw that, I thought of seeing things written in heaven, and that's a thing that I have. I see all kinds of stuff, but I don't read. I don't have the revelation yet with stuff like that. I wonder if anybody else has that experience or anything different.
That's what I thought that's what it meant, was seeing things written down in heaven, because I've had that happen to me a couple times too.
Go ahead, if that perks your interest.
No, it didn't mean that initially, but I think that point is that because we're now having encounters, most of us can remember every single encounter we've had, and that's why it's such a better method than what we relied on before, was trying to hear God through sermons or through other methods. That's what we're trying to encourage people to. I'd probably rephrase that now and saying more about eating off the tree of life than the tree of knowledge. But it was just a practical thing that we've relied so much on audio, feeling that there's some anointing over teaching is preaching a sermon, and there's some anointing over that. And in reality, you actually don't absorb an awful lot when you hear, and unless you apply it, and unless you have other ways of having it reinforced, it probably won't stick. And so I think that's really where we're heading now, is that it's more around dialogue and also encounters, but also you will absorb things if you actually read stuff, or you have different ways of absorbing it. And I know some will only stick to audios, but if you ask them, what did that audio say after listening to it, they probably couldn't recall hardly anything. And that's why we have a lot of the chat groups, because we're trying to model that participation of a practical thing that's actually an issue for us within our relationship with God, rather than we'll just hear loads of content audios and then think we're going to change. There was a lot of thinking around that in the past, that we've just automatically changed because we heard a sermon.
Wow, that's so good. I know for me, like, I'm sitting here, I'm taking notes even on this, just because I operate that way, and I learn and retain better that way. And so I've got tons of journals because I don't remember every encounter, but then I go back and I read, and I can go right back into it because it is recorded, and that becomes a gateway for me.
Go ahead, Eric.
I'm sorry. In the natural, I was hearing some studies that you could start writing in blue ink, or I know Inkling says he likes to color code his writings, because black actually is not a good way to remember a lot of stuff, but easier retention is with blue ink or other colors.
But I would probably, now I'm sort of a long way down the track, I'm actually feeling the temptation to get rid of a lot of pages, because I feel like we've got to lead people. And this is why this page is so important, because it's all about the way you do the ecclesia. But you can see there's not a lot of interest in that. But I think people don't understand that the way they choose, which you have to choose some way. We're all choosing some way. But the way we choose makes a massive, massive difference how we do this journey, and how, to the extent that we get overwhelmed as well. So it's a very narrow path, I see, we have to steer. And that's why I love to have these sorts of dialogues on how we do the ecclesia, because unless you find this narrow path, you're likely either to be in severe overwhelm, and it's all academic and you can't hear anything, and on it's all strange words and it doesn't mean anything, and you lose interest. I've seen a lot of people that's happened to. Or you can find this way in which you can hear God well, and that's the thing that directs you. But having said that, you're not totally on that solo stream, such that if you're not hearing that well, you're going to end up going down a path that's not good. So you sort of tap in, but I found that you have to tap in to the body and the material as the desire takes you, not as an academic manual you work through step by step. And I think that's why we wanted to give people the chance of, where's your spirit saying I need to go, rather than, this is the material we have to cover. We have to teach you all about angels, and we have to teach you about courts, and we have to teach you about untethering, because it's death. It's death the moment it becomes a knowledge we have to absorb. So if you can just find where your desire leads you, and then if you're hungering, say you're absolutely hungering to engage angels, then you want to read a page on angels and it's interesting, and then you're desperate to apply it because you've got this intense hunger, instead of thinking I should know this, therefore I've got to cram all this knowledge in my head. And then we're eating off the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and that brings death, and that brings overwhelm.
That's so good.
Desire is the key.
Jane, this is Capri. That was a lot of confirmation to me, because I've been beating myself up of, oh no, I really need to do this first and this first and this first, like the beginning steps. But man, there's just been this burning desire to really find out more about this specific thing. And it's just, a burning desire for that. So I've kind of veered off, and just some things I'm learning about quantum physics and energy and vibrations and stuff. But but then I've, kind of beat myself up, like guilty, like, oh no, wait, I really need to be learning about the quartz and mountains, and I don't know, but just that kind of stuff. So that was such, that's a huge burden lifted off me.
Yeah, that's good. That's good that you've gone that way. I mean, some people have bypassed the courts because they've got such a strong sense of their authority that they've operating out of a higher age. And so, yeah, it has to be where desire is. But having said that, there's another rabbit hole I've seen. Doing this journey now for 3 years. There's a rabbit hole still of knowledge, particularly around quantum physics, that leads people again to it's coming out of a huge interest and desire, but it's not combining it with relationship. So then it gets into massive dialogue and knowledge around the physics, but the relationship is lacking, and you can't say what your scroll is and why you need this and why you're doing. Do you see the difference? And I've seen some people who were mega into the quantum physics side of it in the early days just disappear. And I remember thinking, why have they disappeared? They were so hungry for this stuff. They were absolutely lapping up the most complex material that was out there. And I think it was because it wasn't combined with relationship. And I would say with other topics as well, like festivals, you know, the Jewish festivals. There's a whole group of people now who've convicted about the Hebrew way of doing things. So their response was, I've got to learn all the festivals and I've got to apply the festivals. And so then that became this huge knowledge bank that they were sucked into. And there was another one as well. I mean, even the Hebrew letters, I've felt no desire to academically learn every single Hebrew letter, what it means, what's the meaning, nor have I felt a desire to learn the intense background of what it means about Melchizedek. I just engaged them. You know, I just engaged the living letters. I've had profound encounters with the living letters. Now, I've actually seen the combination of the living letters more than knowing the individual ones as being the key. And I engaged Melchizedek. I went in and had many encounters with others about engaging the being of Melchizedek, instead of figuring out, well, I need to understand the intense theology around that. And that can distract some people for years out of their destiny and their calling and their and what they're actually supposed to do governmentally as a king. So I would say that as well. Just be, even if there's a desire, just be careful and ask, really, do I need all this knowledge? Because we're so moving to the tree of life now, not knowledge.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. Thank you.
And this is Patience. May I say something?
Please.
Yeah. What I read was a picture is 1,000 words, right? That is we normally say a picture is 1,000 words. But I have experiencing it and engage like the person of Michael or Melchizedek. It's 1,000 words rather than looking to the history in the broad formation. So comparatively, the Lord wants to go engage them, engage the Father, engage the others, the Hebrew living letters. That's what they were saying. And I'm happy you said that. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Patience.
I just wanted to share that I tried to learn Hebrew probably about 10 times in my lifetime. I got as far as the alphabet once, all the way through. And I understand now why he wouldn't let me do that whole thing. I had an intense desire for it, but I never succeeded at it.
That's interesting. Yeah.
However, having living letters come out of my mouth when I'm reeling from my mountain is a thrilling thing.
I think it's like anything. It's these are, you know, it's a tool or it's an aspect, and if it's not to do with, like you say, Jane, our specific scroll, then even a really great thing can be a distraction, right? Yeah. And so it's that discernment that is what's necessary.
Yeah. I'm just getting some revelation now on the Hebrew letters. I've just been told we can dance with them. Wow, I've never seen that before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to say this then. Because one time I saw my scroll, we went into a library, the scroll was opened up, the letters came off the page, they grew huge, bigger than me, and they were a spiral, like a spiral staircase. And I walked up them at least part way, and I looked down and I saw the river of time as a circle around this spiral staircase. And yeah, weirdest thing. And so that's one of the many things I need to go back and engage deeper and go, what was that? And what do I do with that? Yeah. So yeah, dancing with them, that makes sense to me too.
Yeah, that's awesome. And walking on the living letters is probably a similar sort of like a dance. It's all about engaging their DNA so that you subconsciously absorb what their purpose is without having to understand the Hebrew of what it is. I'll tell you one thing I do with living letters. You go in the sapphire cube, and you just imagine this cube of like almost like where Moses wrote the 10 Commandments and how he knew what the 10 Commandments were. So you put yourself in this sapphire cube, and then you see all these living letters floating around in this cube. And then it's as if you can command the living letters to write and form like something like the 10 Commandments on the sides of the cube. And I know it's something about us being able to really get immense downloads on how to do the kingdom life and how to even write new laws through mandating the living letters to go and write, because the living letters, they form together and they form words. So it's not about engaging them singularly, it's about engaging them corporately, like we do with the seven spirits. We engage them together as a bench as well as individually. So it's engaging the living letters as corporately to form words. It's quite exciting. It really is really exciting. And I can see every one of us, our final destiny is to be able to get some significant revelation equivalent to the 10 Commandments. I mean, that's the level at which we're called to with this ruling. It's just phenomenal.
Wow.
Our destiny's way beyond what we can imagine.
Yeah. And it's got to be way beyond what we imagine, because that's what that verse was really speaking to me yesterday. If it's not beyond what we can imagine, then we're in the old ways. So I think that's a test of what we should be involved with or what we shouldn't. If it's very standard and we're all very comfortable with it, then it's probably too old an age for us.
So Jane, it's like you're always running towards the horizon and the horizon's always moving away from you.
Yeah, and it's got to be this whole new movement now. It's got to be stuff that almost freaks you out, because you know that the traditional has gone. It's old, and we're scared of the thing that freaks us out. But that actually should be what we're drawn to, because it's a sign that then we're on the cutting edge of the immense revelation. Oh, and just quickly, I must share, Michelle shared this the other day. She said, I see now this movement is not about glory. You know how the glory movement, everyone was chasing the glory and they wanted to be in the glory cloud and they wanted to see the glory cloud and they want to be covered over us. That's not what a lot of us are getting now. We're not getting this intense knocked over by the glory. What we're knocked over by is revelation. So the flow is actually revelation, but we need the maturity to take on each revelation quickly and then move on to the next. Not be so bowled over that we're sort of flaying on the floor because it's too mature for us. That's why getting to know your authority and maturing quickly is so important, so you can absorb this revelation really quick and then keep moving on, because the flow it's flooding out. I mean, seriously, I've had in the last 2 weeks the most intense revelation. I can't share with people because it's happening too fast and people aren't catching up. So you've got to catch up really quick. It's flooding out of heaven now at the moment, flooding out. There's no time for old ways.
Amen.
And Jane, wouldn't it also be true that we don't have to stop to understand everything? We just
Yeah.
keep moving to what catches our attention, catches our desire.
Yeah. And what's life? And yeah, because we can't articulate it because it is a lot of it is serious quantum physics, and the average person cannot articulate that. That's why we have to put it into simple words like, let's just entangle our DNA, because if we tried to get into the science of it, so many people wouldn't be able to follow that. And it's meant to be as a child. We're meant to, the kingdom is being simple like a child. So just getting into simple pictures is good. We don't have to feel the pressure of making it this complex science or even theology of why we do this or we do that. That's what's so wonderful about it, really. But you will find there will be heaps of people who love that side who will leap on this and produce book after book of intense science. Well, there already has. I mean, I know one has produced an intense book on the quantum physics of this movement. And there's already heaps of books out there. And I would just say to you, you've got to go in relationship. It's got to keep coming out of relationship and not knowledge. Not to say that knowledge is wrong, because we're seeing that's one of the seven spirits. And that's what the revelation is. It's knowledge, really, but it has to be knowledge that you can apply and you use in heaven governmentally. And I think that's where I feel the secret is. That's the secret. And then you get these immense coronations which confirm that you're actually on the right track, and that you're growing in your authority and you're ready for the next step. And if you're not getting that kind of thing, I'd say, well, ask heaven, have you gone too much on the knowledge side and you're not applying it?
This may be a good point to, I'm sorry, somebody has something to say?
I was just saying that it's a very interesting turn of phrase, saying that you're getting a new coronation when you've kind of like gotten to a point where you're able to move on to the next thing. Because I've had been getting quite a few of those kind of images in my head recently.
Oh, awesome. That is so exciting to hear. I mean, I think that's just a really good confirmation you're on the right track. And so you can just ask what each one means, because sometimes what people don't understand about coronations is there's investitures and then there's succession. So some people think, oh, if I have one, that means I am a king and I'm fully embracing that. But it might be that you're just told you're now at the level of you're being invested as a king, but that still requires you to act out your responsibility for a period of time to then get another coronation that shows that you've actually you succeeded in terms of acting as a king. So that's good to understand that, so that you are working on applying it, not just thinking, well, I've reached that stage, okay, what's next?
Thank you.
I think this might be a good place to ask Father to apply this particular part of the dialogue to us personally. So let's pause and do that. See what he has to say or reveal to each of us. Anybody have something to share? I'll share what he said to me. He said, come up higher.
Hmm.
Anybody else?
Bill,
Yes.
I just heard that rule. I mean, just immediately after we were quiet, I just heard you show all this authority in the heavenly realms, but you're not acting, you're not doing any of that on earth. You're not showing it in the natural. You're just, when you get in the heavenly realms, you're like this person, you're getting comfortable and you feel confident and you're showing all this authority. And then when you get back to the natural, you're just like shying away and you're not confident. You're not taking that authority that I'm teaching you and you have in the heavenlies, and you're not doing it in the natural.
Mm-hmm.
That's like my life. That's so me right now.
That's so wonderful that you've got that authority. I mean, that is wonderful. So it shows you really are quite far ahead with this stuff.
Oh, me?
Kelly, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hmm.
And that's what's interesting about my journey, was that I didn't know what was basic and what was advanced when I first started. And the first podcast I listened to was about men in white linen. And so the very first thing I did was I just listened to one podcast. I said, okay then, right, I better just ask who's my men in white linen. And I got this immense download. And next minute I was off. I was like engaging these men in white linen. I knew my scroll. I knew the whole process of this Joshua generation before I'd heard anybody else talk about it. I understood the whole thing within weeks. So you have to go with because heaven knows where you're flowing, and there's no one can say that's a basic, or that's too advanced, you shouldn't be going there yet, that's too basic. You've got to go where your spirit man is comfortable. And that might be a very different journey from someone else, but to go with that, and you might be one of these people who races ahead and within 2 years becomes a chancellor, way above somebody else who's been teaching you, because that's what we're seeing as well, is that the new people coming in are significantly advancing beyond the old, and that's the way it's meant to be, exponential growth.
We are just about our 10:30 scheduled end time here. And I think that Jane's last comment summed up the entire dialogue that we had this evening. I have observed that Father tends to reveal the overall topic towards the end of the conversation. I think he just did that. He summarized it all down into one comment. So thank you so much, folks. We really enjoyed this tonight.
What would you say is the topic, Bill?
What's that?
What would you say is the overall theme for the meeting?
I think what I heard from you at the end here was follow your desire, but also go the path that he leads you, and it may not be the same as anybody else. And I think that from what you're saying is the key to getting unstuck. If you're looking at somebody else's path, or even looking at pages that go in a particular order, the thing is to go back, engage with the Godhead, and find out exactly where their plan for you is, and get back on the cutting edge.
That's good. Yeah, I like that summary.
With the addition that there is no limit to how far he can take you and how fast he can take you.
Yeah, and we should, and any leader, if you're involved with anybody, they should be trying to lift you above their heads and give you permission to go higher than them. So if you find yourself with anyone who's trying to restrict your growth, and because that's threatening to them, that's not a good leader. So be with someone who's trying to push you higher and not hold you back, and really fulfill your scroll. You want to be in a family where there's so much platform to fulfill your scroll, not where you have to prove yourself who you are. That is just so key.
I'm going to just make a couple, we have lots of folks on tonight that I have not spoken to before. So if you go to Heavenly Realms Facebook, you'll find that there's a schedule there of ascensions, and you're welcome to go on the ascensions. We recommend that you go as soon as you can in the Heavenly Realms. And also, you're aware of the pages and the chat groups, and folks that you've talked to tonight. For example, if healing is something you're interested in, we do have a healing group to be involved with. And we'd be glad to get you placed with other folks that are at this place that you are. And we just need to know where you are so that we can get you in with folks that are at that point right now. And you're welcome to exceed what that group is doing and move on to the next one, or you may be the one that's leading the next group, who knows. So thank you very much tonight, everybody. We really appreciate it. I enjoyed having everybody here tonight. This is wonderful.
Hey, Bill, real fast. This is
Yes.
great. Just can you message me either just when you get some time about the new Tree of Life group?
Yep, Bree.
That's starting up. Yes, sir.
Okay. And what's your last name, Bree? Wait a moment. I'm going to turn the chat group off, turn the recording off for a moment here. Turn the recording off.